Okay, Chairman Williams, we're ready.
Okay. I'd like to call to order the Alcoa Municipal Regional Planning Commission regular scheduled meeting for April the 15th, 2021. Will you call the roll, please?
Jeremy, you're not coming through.
We're having some minor difficulties here.
Yeah,
We'll continue just a moment.
while he test runs it, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Buchanan, Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Rochelle,
Here.
Commissioner Thompson,
Present.
Chairman Williams.
Here, thank you.
Yes, sir.
We have a determination of necessity of electronic meeting, required action. A determination is needed by the Alcoa Municipal Regional Planning Commission regarding the necessity of electronic meeting pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order number 78, extending Executive Order number 16, executed on February 26, 2021, and recommendations from the Tennessee Comptroller of the Treasurer and other applicable laws in effect. The governor's order allows government agencies to amend, rescind certain requirements under the Tennessee Open Meeting Act regarding the electronic meeting in lieu of in-person attendance and participation. The Comptroller's Office recommends that boards make a determination regarding the necessity of electronic meeting for continued functions of government agency and to protect public health, safety, and welfare during the outbreak of COVID-19. Such recommendations to be placed on the record in the commission's minutes. What is the desire of the commission?
Move approval.
Second it.
I have a motion and a second. Will you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Rochelle,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Chairman Williams.
Aye, thank you. You've been furnished a copy of the minutes from our March 18th, 2021 meeting. If you have no comments or observations regarding those minutes, I'm going to declare those approved as presented. Thank you. Our first item on the agenda for tonight, the first category is request for preliminary and final approval. Our first item there under that category is consideration request by Chris Rouser, Sterling Engineering, to replat 2 lots into 3 lots, Pistol Creek Properties, 560 and 568 North Wright Road, tax ID 037P B 021.00 and 022.00, project plat project -20 1-11. Is Jeremy with us yet? Can you tell?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
While he advances to the screen, and there's the plot. So Jeremy,
You see it now?
Yes.
yes.
Okay, sorry about that.
Okay.
All right, so this is you see the 3-lot subdivision, and really this action is taking the configuration, the lot configuration back to that which previously existed. It's also in, this follows another item for a rezoning to allow these lot sizes. Currently, this property is zoned Residence District A. The Residence District B would allow for the smaller lot sizes. You can go as low as 6,000 square feet per lot, and each lot frontage may be 50 feet in length along the roadway versus 75 feet when you're a Residence District A. So there will be, again, the item on the agenda to allow that per a zoning change. And in this case, right away from center line is maintained as 30 feet from center line for a collector roadway facility. And staff does recommend approval of the preliminary and final plat, subject to the following stipulations. That's 1, a revised plat denoting stipulation A1. Also 2, which is approval by the Alcoa Board of Commissioners for the rezoning to Residence District B. 3, approval by engineering, and note that this plat is still under review for utilities. And 4, approval of utilities. 5, execution of the necessary signatures and recording of the plat. And 6, meeting all other city requirements.
Okay, thank you. You've heard the recommendation by staff. What's the desire of the commission?
I move we approve it.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or any comments? If not, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rochelle,
Aye.
and Chairman Williams.
Aye, thank you. Motion carries. Next, we have a consideration of request by Benny Marmon of Benchmark Associates, Inc. to combine 2 lots into 1 lot, Topside O's 2 LLC property, 2139 Topside Road, tax ID 017 031.00 and 031.01, project plat numbers at 20-052.
Okay. All right. So you should be able to see the overall plat on the screen. It's located along Topside Road, as you see here on the top of the map, at the corner of Macbeth Road and Topside Road, and also bound by Stewart Lane on the south end. And it borders the Hutchinson George property here to the left of the screen. In terms of the site, it's a large acre tract. This plat is to absorb this corner lot, which was recorded previously as part of the Paul Macbeth property at the time of a recording of a previous plat. There are a couple of things that are being denoted on this plat, and that's 1, there's a 40-foot landscape buffer that will be platted along the road frontage in conformance with a BZA approval for a special exception for a multifamily project, and that'll allow for a buffer for separation between the highway and the residential dwellings. There's also a 25-foot buffer established adjoining the Hutchinson property, and that is a agricultural lower density type of residential zone. And again, to provide the separation from the more intense commercial property, as this property is zoned General Business District E, that buffer will be in place to provide for landscape plantings to have less impacts on that adjoining property. Show you here, there's just a blow up of the buffers. One of the things I want to point out on this property is there's right-of-way dedications that are being precipitated by this plat, and also as a result of road improvements. Macbeth Road is a collector roadway facility which requires 30 feet from center line. That is being shown, and that's what you're seeing here in the hatching. Stewart Lane also provides for 25 feet from center line, a reduction of 5 feet from that on Macbeth Road. It is a local street on the road plan, so it only requires the 25 feet from center line. And Topside Road is a collector, or a minor arterial, requiring at its most 50 feet from center line for a total of 50 feet. In certain instances, you can go down to 40 feet from center line. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that. First, in the case of the former recording in Macbeth, in talking with the surveyor today, Benny Mormon, who's on this meeting call as well, at the time of that recording, there was a dedication of right-of-way of 30 feet from center line provided, and it was shown and recorded that way. The plat that Benny has presented does not show the 30 feet from center line that was previously platted and recorded. One of the comments is that that previous plat and right-of-way dedication from center line be shown to indicate the 30 feet, with the intent being that we would go back at a later date and do an abandonment of 5 feet along Stewart Lane, because again, it is a local, at the time of the previous plat, it was a collector roadway, which required the 30 feet from center line. In speaking with Benny, he's informed me that the monuments are set, and the previous plat and the surveyor at the time did not establish the right-of-way center line properly. So there was never, although it appears per the recording of the plat that there was a 30 feet from center line dedication, that never actually occurred. The actual information that's shown in terms of the property calls and the location of that plat per the Paul Bath property, that's all accurate. And so what I've recommended is and when I go through the stipulation of approval, is that in all areas that concern this former plat, that be reviewed further in tandem with the city attorney. And it may be that a plat note needs to be added so that previous plat is not lost in terms of what has actually happened there, and it recognizes that there was an error and that this plat is accurately reflecting the center line measurements in the 25 feet right-of-way dedication. So I wanted to point that out. In another matter, as I mentioned, 50 feet from center line for the minor arterial along Topside Road. And one of the stipulations of approval was that 50 feet be identified from center line. This is the fringe of the urban growth territory of the city, this property, and there is an ability to go down from 40 feet from center line. The owner, Jim Doss, actually owns the property also opposite the street, and it has been requested of staff that there be a consideration made by you to reduce that 50 feet from center line to allow that which is already in existence. It is a state road right-of-way. There is 50 plus feet here on the property, and it starts to actually narrow to as little as 44 feet 6 inches at this point of the property. So you're not getting that full 50 feet. The tax maps show this as a straight line, which is not a survey, and it appeared that the original discussions that there was actual adequate right-of-way there of 50 feet from center line. And it's a little bit of the cart before the horse in that the development plan was considered, and we talked about that during the briefing previously. And one of the comments was that we would prefer to not take the development plan without the plat. We did do that. We looked at it because of all the survey information, and it was aligning and did not appear to be a problem. But this is a problem now in that with that additional feet, less than 5 feet or so, that would need to be dedicated, will create a problem with the improvements for the apartment development. And so it is what it is in that sense. And we obviously don't want to get into that. We feel comfortable with the right-of-way that is there. We obviously want to be consistent also in application, but due to the fact that the property owner owns the lands opposite the street, we're also looking at development plans for commercial as you looked at the concept plans last month for that project. Should there be a need for any additional right-of-way, we'll make it up on the other side. There will be road improvements that are being necessitated by this project as well as the commercial project opposite the street should it occur in the future. So we would recommend that the Topside Road right-of-way be left as it is currently. No further dedications be required. And again, there is the flexibility to go down to as less as 40 feet from center line. And one of the rationales in this case is it is on the fringe of the growth territory of the city. If this property were near the Parkway interchange, where Weigel's, Good Times, and the bank and the Wine and Spirits, obviously that area, their road improvements are more significant, but they do narrow as you travel the corridor. Even in the future, we would expect that to not change. So again, we feel comfortable with that. So that's just an update from your packet on this. So we went through all of this, and so I will go ahead with the recommendation as we talked more at length on it during the briefing. So staff does recommend approval of the preliminary and final plat subject to the following stipulations, and that's one, a revised plat denoting stipulations A through G as revised as you receive the revised packet. And with the revision that I just spoke about, I'm going to point those out as they're being written into the recommendation from the revisions that you've received also. So that is the first revision would be D, which would be one, a revised plat denoting, and that's D2, which states that Stewart Lane is classified as a residential local street on the City of Alcoa's thoroughfare plan, which requires the dedication of right-of-way to be 25 feet from center line of the roadway, with 30 feet from center line dedicated along a portion of Stewart Lane per plat book 2, page 208, McBath, Paul, and that's the original subdivision plat. The addition here is note that the city attorney is to review and approve language modifications to this note if necessary, which may include the need for a separate note, as the surveyor's claim is that the previous plat recording included inaccurate center line locations. The next revision is G, 1G, and that's identification of the boundary to reflect previous right-of-way dedication of 30 feet from center line along a portion of Stewart Lane per plat book 2, page 208, McBath, Paul property. Note that no dedication is to be reflected by cross-hatching for the Paul McBath property as dedication occurred previously at 30 feet from center line, with any reduction to be considered as part of a right-of-way abandonment process. Again, added to that note, city attorney is to review and assist in determining the need for this modification as per 2D above, as the surveyor's claim is the previous plat recording included inaccurate center line locations, and the stipulation is hereby conditioned per review and approval or disapproval by the city attorney of any needed modification. Number 2, approval by the engineering. Note that this plat is still under review for utilities. 3, approval of utilities. 4, execution of the necessary signatures and recording of the plat. And 5, meeting all other city requirements.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. You've heard the recommendation of the staff. What is the commission's desire, please?
Move approval as noted. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Rochelle,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
and Chairman Williams.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Next, we have a consideration request by Kelly Harbin, DS Builders, to plat all utility easement and site improvements, Fairfield Inn property, Springbrook Farm Development, 1865 Collins Street, tax ID 036K A006.00, project plat 19-058.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You should see the screen here. As this is a planned unit development within the Springbrook Farm development, it does require the as-built plat to be recorded as per a development plan, as the zoning is requires a development plan be recorded as the form of the development is per review and approval of the development plan. So that's what's before you. And staff does recommend approval of the preliminary and the final plat subject to the following stipulations. Those are: 1, a revised plat denoting that stipulations A through N as revised, provided to you previously in the packet. Revisions relating to the need for property owner information for the joint access easement, which is held within a separate lot for common open space and vehicular and pedestrian access, as well as N, which included that the actual lot numbers be provided for on the actual plat map for that lot. 2, approval by engineering. Note again, this is under review for utilities. 3, approval of utilities. 4, execution of the necessary signatures and recording of the plat. And 5, meeting all other city requirements.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right. You've heard the recommendation by the staff. What is your desire?
I move we approve it.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rochelle,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
and Chairman Williams.
Aye. Thank you. Next, we have consideration request by Gary Bass to replat the interior property line between two lots, Harold Bass Estate Property, 1556 and 1606 Middle Settlement Road, tax ID 045, 054.00, and 054.02, property plat 21-012.
Okay. Here's the property that you see here, again, along Middle Settlements Road. We'll blow up here. Property fronts Middle Settlements Road. It has frontage here. This is a portion in between this land and Gary Best property as it exists. There was also previously a platted area as part of this estate, which created Lot 1. And what's happening here is, as part of the state, this portion of the property, which includes the home, is being split out from the larger land holding, with that larger land holding then being absorbed into Gary Best's property as this is his family's estate. There is flood hazard area located on the property. That's what you're seeing here with the hashing. There's also blue line streams on the property. All improvements are being shown. Right-of-way dedications from center line of 50 feet, as Middle Settlements Road is an arterial roadway, a minor arterial. The 50 feet is being provided for from center line at Gary Best's property. It needs to also be reflected here on the property, which is identified as Lot 2. As the previous estate and the split to carve out this lot created Lot 1, Lots 2 and 3 are being created as they were part of the original Harold Best estate. Staff does recommend approval of the preliminary and final plat subject to the following stipulations, and that's 1, a revised plat denoting stipulations A through F as revised, with one revision being for clarification and of the lot establishment, as the lots 2 and 3 are actually being created by this plat, they be identified as just lots 2 and 3. A, noting that the dedication is not shown as I pointed out. That's a revision for the lot 2 on the drawing. And then F, which reflects a title to state that the final plat is creating lot 2 of the Harold Best estate and lot 3 of the Gary Best property, which is the remainder of the Harold Best estate. 2, approval by engineering, and note that this plat is still under review for utilities. 3, approval of utilities. 4, approval by Blount County Environmental Health, if applicable. 5, execution of the necessary signatures and recording of the plat. And 6, meeting all other city requirements.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we've heard the recommendation of staff. What's the desire of the commission?
Well, I move that we approve this.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or comments? If not, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rochelle,
Aye.
and Chairman Williams.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Next, we have a consideration request by Randall White Land Surveys, to replat 3 lots into 1 lot, Trevor Hill Properties, Fox Hill Drive, Tower, Rivers Lane, Urban Growth Boundary, tax ID 0020, A 006.00-009.00, project plat 21-013.
Okay. As you can see, got the right here. Sorry. Okay. So as you can see here, the plat, this is in the urban growth territory of the city, creating this lot here, which is lot 10. I think I got mine messed up. I'm sorry about that. Which is a land area which is absorbing 2 additional tracts. There's also some easements that are being abandoned also. And Staff does recommend approval. You were provided in your packet the recommendation, and no changes were made to that. And staff does recommend approval of this preliminary and final plat, which is again within the growth territory of the city and located off of Fox Hills, which is 1, a revised plat denoting stipulations A through E, 2, approval by the engineering if applicable, 3, approval of utilities, 4, approval by the Blount County Environmental Health, 5, approval by Blount County Highway and Superintendent, and 6, execution of the necessary signatures and recording the plat, and 7, meeting all other city requirements.
Move approval as noted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Rochelle,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
and Chairman Williams.
Aye, thank you. Next, we have a consideration request by Ruskin Baskin Land Development Solutions to replat the interior property line between 2 lots, Young Properties 516 and 518 Russell Road, Urban Growth Boundary, Tax ID 027B A of 010.01 through 011.01, Project Plat 21-014.
You should see the screen and overall plat blow up here. So again, the property has frontage along Russell. It also is bound between the road right-of-way and the railroad right-of-way here, the Southern Railway. You'll notice that there is a jog in that railway in terms of the rear boundary line of the property. These do involve 2 lots. It's really a rearrangement and configuration of the land area that consists of these 2 land holdings that are separate. So the existing 2 lots as they are in place now, this property line, if you'll follow from this upper corner all the way down to its intersection with Russell Road, that is the interior property boundary, which currently includes these 2 separate lots. The new configuration will reduce the road frontage of what is identified as Lot 2. It will reduce the road frontage to just over 75 feet in width, the minimum standard for a rural area in the county. And the Lot 1 will have an increased land area. You can see that there are improvements on this property. There are certain improvements that will be maintained on the Lot 2 as shown, as well as the Lot 1. There's also a drive access from the Russell Road right-of-way to Lot 2. Should that remain, should be incorporated into a joint type of access easement. Again, Lot 2 does have road frontage. There may be relocation of access, which may occur as well. These were part of 2 separate subdivisions. This lot land area here as it currently exists was Lot 13, and that was lot 13 of the West Addition subdivision. And this was Lot 1 of the Joe D. Townsend property subdivision. They're both currently owned by Young, last name. And so to capture the chronological kind of history in terms of the platting that's occurred, because there have been replats. There was a replat of Lot 13 previously. And so that's one of the notes is in a revised note packet that was sent to you. So staff does recommend approval of the 2 lots, 1 lot being 3.46 acres and the Lot 2 being 5.08 acres. And it's subject to the following: 1, a revised plat denoting that stipulations A through L, with the revision denoting that the identification of Lot 1 be Lot 1R, as it currently is Lot 1, so it's being revised its first time. And the second is under K, that the addition of the title block state and be revised to state that the final plat of Lot 1 into Lot 1R of the Joe D. Townsend property subdivision and its Lot 13 into 13R2. There have been 2 revisions now of Lot 13 of West Addition, which again is the Young property. And again, that will maintain the platting history of this property. 2, approval of engineering, if applicable. 3, approval of utilities. 4, approval of Blount County Environmental Health. 5, approval by Blount County Highway Superintendent. 6, execution of the necessary signatures and recording the plat. And 7, meeting all other city requirements.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, you've heard the discussion and recommendation by staff. What is the desire of the commission?
Move for approval.
Second it.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or comments? If not, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rochelle,
Aye.
Chairman Williams.
Aye, thank you. Next, we have a consideration of request by Ruskin Basket Land Development Solutions to replat the interior property line between two lots, Whitaker Properties LLC and Outlander Group LLC properties, 3234 and 3262 Airport Highway, tax ID 017 084.01 and 084.02, project plat 21-015.
Right, this property is before you, should see before your screens here. This property, again, along Alcoa Highway with road frontage, also adjoins the Sherwood Garden Cemetery, and the North Park area is here to the north, adjoining the lands. This represents a split of what I'll refer to as the former Enterprise Building, which is currently platted as a narrow lot, which has a property pin here. So you can see from the northern corner, south along the highway to this point. It continues on to another pin here as it then is closed, or at its rear point, and back to another pin to close it here at the north corner. So you can see it's limited in its developability. It has limited parking. And what this does is really gives them additional land area to have better use of this site for a general business district lot that would allow for more storage and such. This is the additional lot, which is currently used as an auto repair. Caliber is the name of it. And it, as you can see, is maintained as a sizable tract. The frontage road easement, as per recorded on the previous plat, as this did represent a previous plat action, is maintained. It's 40 feet along the road frontages. There's a slight encroachment of this building, and that'll be denoted on the plat. Right away from center line should be 60 feet. And that it was dedicated per the previous plat. It's not identified on this lot as a center line measurement. The center line of 60 feet does need to be denoted, and it should not be meeting that 60 feet. It would be adjusted to provide for that. There are two areas where buffers need to be maintained as part of development plans for either lot. At such time either lot is to be developed further, the proper buffer of 10 feet on each side of the lot line would need to be installed, and that would be along this boundary line here, as well as the boundary line here, where if you can follow my cursor. And staff does recommend approval of this preliminary and final plat subject to the following, and that's 1A through L as revised, with a revision specifically being 1F, and that's the rewording of plat note 1 to also state and right-of-way dedication if necessary, as it appears that only the center line measurement of 60 feet needs to be shown at 2R1, as I pointed out. Number G, which is addition of plat notes as follows. That's 2. Just expanding that note previously provided to specifically identify the exact boundaries which are non-compliant, and that's perimeter parking buffers, a minimum of 10 feet in width, shall be located on each side of the lot lines identified as, and the boundary calls are called out for each one of those lines at such time of the further development and improvement or a change of tenant request of either lot. Note that C plat note shall be labeled at the buffer encroachments, and that may also require certain modification adjustments to those two lot lines. Number 2 is approval of engineering if applicable. 3, approval of utilities. 4, approval of the Blount County Environmental Health. 5, approval by Blount County Highway Superintendent. 6, execution of the necessary signatures and recording of the plat. And 7, meeting all other city requirements.
Move approval as noted.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or comments? If not, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Rochelle,
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Chairman Williams.
Aye. Thank you.
Okay.
On your agenda, under this particular category, request for preliminary and final approval, you show there are 8 items listed on the agenda. That 8th item, we're going to move that 8th item down to the next category, which is request for preliminary approval. So there were only 7 items to be discussed under the previous category, request for preliminary and final approval. The 8th item will be moved to the request for preliminary approval. And that item becomes number 1 under room number 6. And it is a consideration request by Randa White, C2RL Engineering, to replat 15 lots into 3 lots, replat a portion of Erline Drive to include absorbing a to be abandoned area of Erline Drive right-of-way, Honda Land, LLC, and Loan Properties, Erline Drive and Airport Highway, tax ID 017LB 001.00, 004.00, 005.00, 006.00, 009.00, and 013.00 through 015.00, tax ID 017, 078.00, and tax ID 017, 078.02, project plat 21-016.
Thank you. All right, so should see the plat on your screen. The plat and the property is actually bound by the Public Safety Parkway, the on-ramp onto Alcoa Highway, frontage along Alcoa Highway. This represents 2 parcels held by Honda LLC under the Twin City dealership umbrella. And there's also a portion of property held by the same here at the corner of Airbase Road and Alcoa Highway, which also includes a rectangular parcel which consists of 6 small linear lots that are actually still in existence. So what this plat does is cleans that up, and it creates actually 2 separate land holdings, as there is a public right-of-way that is in existence currently. That's what you're seeing here. There's access currently from the highway, full access, and this is Airline Drive that you're seeing in the green. Airline Drive carries on out and becomes Chandler here. So the colors of this plat represent some, for purposes of clarification, and to point out that this item is related to a couple of other requests. It's related to an annexation request and also a zoning assignment or assignments of several properties, and also right-of-way abandonment. So what the overall plan here is to, as a request, is to abandon a portion of Airline Drive. As I mentioned, Airline Drive currently comes off the highway and it makes a 90-degree turn, and it terminates here at Chandler. Airline Drive also has a sliver of right-of-way off of it here, which is unimproved right-of-way. It's, by the way, not a part of the annexation request that you'll look at later, but it does provide access to 2 parcels which are in existence currently, and it's the driveway for those 2 parcels. So it is right-of-way, and there's not an actual lot there. So what would happen at such time this plat is recorded, and again, it has been moved, as Mr. Chairman stated, to preliminary, as there are a number of items that need to be worked through. But ultimately what will occur is improvements would be made as a result of consolidation of land holdings to allow for a turnaround on Airline Drive. As those of you who have been along Airline Drive know, it's a substandard roadway, and quite substandard as it transitions to Chandler Road. That portion between the to-be constructed turnaround and Chandler Road, which would also need to have a turnaround. Again, when we terminate the road right-of-way, the turnaround's provided to provide for the necessary public movements and turnaround and emergency services and that sort of thing. So by abandoning this portion of the property, the landholder is able to consolidate his two separate parcels here. There's a parcel one. One was actually created as a lot a number of years ago. That would be combined with the adjoining parcel, which has frontage along the Pellissippi Parkway on-ramp onto the highway. And they would consolidate their 4 additional properties here. They have 1, 2, 3, and 4 to create one large sizable lot, which lot 1 is would be shown as over 6 acres, 6.3 acres of land area. Lot 2, by the fact that the road right-of-way will need to be maintained open because there are separate land holdings and ownerships are all separate and there must be road frontage maintained. What would happen is this corner lot would be absorbing the 6 narrow lots that I mentioned before to create lot 2. Lot 2 would be 2.56 acres. This recommendation before you and the plat is presented would close as an access point from the highway so that one may not go to and from Airline Drive to Alcoa Highway or vice versa. As this is an unsafe condition, access will be controlled to Airbase Road as a part of this plat recording. There will be a new right-of-way established, which will follow the state right-of-way line. It would be a local dedicated roadway maintained by the city. It would be basically expansion of Airline Drive. So you again would follow the highway. You'll come and make a right turn onto that alignment which exists and the 90-degree turn to create that cul-de-sac. So access will be maintained for these property owners. It will be improved for safety in terms of how you access the properties. And the blue, what you're seeing would be a joint access, or I should say a non-exclusive permanent cross-access, as it would be allowed for cross-access of adjoining properties along the frontage. Lot 1, as previously recorded, provided for it. It's the frontage road type of easement, 40 feet in width. That would be continued on to its property boundary here on the north corner of the property to adjoin the long property. The long property is also showing a dedication of a portion of what would be dedicated right-of-way for the turnaround. The long property and all improvements will need to be a part of this plat and shown. The long ownership will need to be an executed signature on the plat. Should the right-of-way be, should a turnaround be maintained within the existing right-of-way, there would perhaps not be a need for that, and that can be looked at further. Again, this would be a preliminary plat approval only, as we do not also have a development plan, so there's some work to be done. But obviously there are a lot of complexities associated with this, and I will point out lot 3 is also being provided. Lot 3 is not changing in any way, so it's really not a part of this plat. It's actually pre-existing as lot 40 on a previous plat, and it's 0.25 acres. Staff does recommend a revised preliminary plat. Well, I should say we recommend a preliminary plat approval subject to the following. That's 1, a revised preliminary plat denoting as revised, and that stipulations 1A through L, with the first of revision in being to the title block that this is a 2-lot subdivision, lot 1 into 1R, and then lot 2, which was also included a consolidation of the lots 1 through 6 of the Pine Grove addition. Also, and then the deletion of lot 3 from the plat. Also referring to the joint permanent easement as it's maintained all on the lot 1R as a non-exclusive permanent cross-access easement. 2, also pointing out the access to and from Airport Highway, to and from Airline Drive, and vice versa. All of that's controlled access, so no ride-ins or ride-outs permissible. 3, the construction of sidewalks would also include frontages along the US 129 frontage, and that would be any sidewalk construction would be per lot development or appropriate equivalents at time of a development plan review and approval. 5 is related to a portion of, to denote that the ordinance for the closure of right-of-way that's necessary, that be captured in the form of a plat note, and so that was another revision. 1H was also revision to explain that, to properly denote that the long property that is being acquired is for the right-of-way dedication. And also the addition of the improvements on the long property, that's I, that needs to be provided for. The symbology for the coding of the long property, again, needs to reflect that it's for the dedication of right-of-way. As I discussed during the briefing, we will add an additional stipulation that states that the addition of existing stormwater management improvements and the necessary associated easements for common stormwater management where applicable should be added, as there is a stormwater management facility constructed on the site. It will serve as a joint shared water facility between the two lots. So an easement would need to be provided for on the plat. And then L is identification of all references to the joint permanent easement, refer to it as a non-exclusive permanent cross-access easement, and that would be to the legend and any other areas. Number 2, favorable action for relocation and abandonment and closure of the airline drive by the Alcoa Board of Commissioners with conditions of the ordinance adopted to be satisfied. 3, review and approval of the non-exclusive permanent cross-access easement document for maintenance by the city attorney, as well as the same for maintenance of stormwater management easements, was said to be recorded by the applicant if applicable. 4, filing of surety for construction of the necessary improvements to Airline Drive was said to be in the form of a performance bond or appropriate equivalent in an amount determined and agreed to be sufficient by the city. 5, approval of engineering. 6, approval of utilities. 7, approval of TDOT Region 1 for the access point closure onto Airport Highway, and that's State Route 115, US Highway 129 if applicable. 8, execution of the necessary signatures and recording of the plat, and that's revised with Long Properties LLC to also be an executed signature due to the land right-of-way dedication. And 9, meeting all other city requirements.
Move approval as noted.
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Rochelle,
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Chairman Williams.
Aye. Thank you. This item for preliminary approval for the first item in this category is approved by this body. Thank you. Next, we have a request for final approval. We have no items in that category. Next, we have room number 8. The first item of that category is miscellaneous request for required action. First item there is consideration of a rezoning request, Resident District A to Resident District B for tax ID 037P, B 021-00, 022.00, 022.01, 026.00, 026.01, and 026.02, located at 512, 518, 524, 556, 560, and 568 North Wright Road.
Okay, you should see the map before you. You see the hashing. There are 3 parcels on the north end, and on the south end, there are another set of 3 parcels, all held by Pistol Creek Properties. Again, the 3 northern portion, 3 parcels are part of the plat that was looked at previously and approved. This is just to align the form with the zoning. Obviously, it's a more of a medium density form in this area. The long range plan for the area calls for a medium density, and this would be in conformance with that. So the Residence District B zoning classification is recommended to you, and staff has provided a PC resolution in your packet, which is PC Resolution 2021-21, which recommends the rezoning to the Alcoa Board of Commissioners, which does include the approval and recording of a subdivision plat to adjust the lot lines for conformance with the Residence District B zone. So that plat will be held until the zoning is effective, and then it will be recorded.
Okay. Thank you. You've heard the recommendation by the staff. What is the commission's desire?
I move we approve it.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rochelle,
Aye.
Chairman Williams.
Aye. Thank you. PC Resolution 2021-21 is approved by this body. Next, we have a consideration request by Jerry Hodge, Honda Landing LLC, owner, to annex tax ID 017 078.00 and tax ID 017L B 006.00, 009.00, 013.00, 014.00, and 015.00 to include a remainder of Airline Drive right-of-way located at Airline Drive and Airport Highway.
Okay, you should see the map before you. You see the black hatching. Those areas represent the territory in its totality of what would be brought into the city. There are a number of parcels that are being requested for annexation into the city by the property owner. And that would include, as noted in the caption, the right-of-way along Airline Drive that is currently not in the city. So Chandler is in the city and portion of Airline. So this is the gap, the whole kind of donut hole that we have at this time in terms of right-of-way. So all that would be part of this. So again, it will follow along with the plat and include some reconfigurations in the future. Staff has provided to you in your packet the PC resolution, which is PC Resolution 2021-22, which recommends the annexation and a plan of services, which is Exhibit B to the Alcoa Board of Commissioners. Also, staff wants to point out that we'll look at the zoning, but you'll notice in this red, as part of this annexation, that there'll be a holding zone placed on this property, and I'll talk about that as part of the zoning assignment.
Okay. All right. You've heard the recommendation by staff. What is the desire of the commission?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or comments? If not, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rochelle,
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
Chairman Williams.
Aye. Thank you. PC Resolution 2021-22 is approved by this body. Thank you. Next, we have a consideration of zoning assignment, limited restriction, District I, tax ID 017, 078.00, and tax ID 017L, B 006.00, 009.00, and 013.00, 014.00, and 015.00, considered for annexation located at 1709, 1721, 1731, 1735 Airline Drive off Airport Highway, Airline Drive.
Okay, similar to the previous drawing, you'll see this represents the zoning assignment. These parcels which are being requested are shown here to be applied. The residence district, I'm sorry, not resident, limited restriction district I zoning classification. It's a low density residential and agricultural type of zone. Obviously, the right of way is not a part of this, as the right of way is not being zoned. And at such time, the plat that you looked at earlier is recorded. Conditions would change, as that plat also includes road improvements and turnarounds that would need to be in place to support a more intense zone, the general business district zone, which is the red. As you can see, a lot of the territory is under the general business classification. So that would be the long range plan for the area. But again, it would be premature to apply such a zoning at this time, as the parcels are still substandard for that to support that type of a use. And so just know, I'll make note, in the interim, as the area conditions do not yet warrant these intense commercial zoning for these parcels, the limited restriction district I is recommended as a holding zone. And once the conditions change, with a plat recorded to absorb the surrounding land holdings and to be abandoned portion of the right of way, precipitating also road improvements, the general business district E zoning may then be considered. Staff has provided you with a recommendation as amended, which is PC Resolution 2021-23, and that recommends the zoning assignment of Limited Restriction District I to the Alcoa Board of Commissioners.
Okay, thank you. Okay, you've heard the recommendation of the staff. What is the desire of the commission?
And so moved.
I'm gonna second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or comments? If not, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rochelle,
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
Chairman Williams.
Aye, thank you. PC Resolution 2021-23 is approved of this body. Next, number 4, we have consideration request to abandon a portion of Airline Drive as a public right-of-way.
Okay, here, which is serves also as the plat map, what you see here in the dashed yellow here on the drawing represents the area of abandonment in the hatch, the orange shade hatch. Again, it follows along with the previous items, and we have provided in your packet PC Resolution 2021-24, which recommends the right-of-way abandonment to the Alcoa Board of Commissioners. There's also supplemental documentation provided to you. Obviously, you looked at the annexation of the territories surrounding it. Also provided to you in your packet is a conceptual layout. This is not being considered at this time. In the future, development plans will proceed, we anticipate, and you'll look at this again. But this is just to give you and to place in context what is being provided, what the consolidations and the road rights of way, what can be achieved by doing that by this landholder, which is again, Twin City dealerships, to provide for an additional dealership in the future. And you can see the road improvements that would be made for access. And again, the location of the building and parking that can be gained by the changes in this area. So staff recommends that resolution be adopted.
Okay, thank you. You've heard the recommendation of staff. What is the desire of the commission?
I move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, any comments? If not, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rochelle,
Aye.
Chairman Williams.
Aye, thank you. PC Resolution 2021-24 is approved of this body. Next, we have consideration request by Peter and Debbie Bolton, owners of to annex tax ID 037JF006.00 located at 641 Egerton Road.
Here on the map, you'll see the city limits in the red dashed line, and the red solid represents parcels that have been brought into the city, with this parcel here being the Advanced Auto being the termination point currently of the city. This property is far removed from city limits, not contiguous or easily attachable, and the request was for sanitary sewer service, as it's not feasible as per study by staff. There's a PC resolution that's in your packet, PC Resolution 2021-25, which recommends that the parcel not be annexed, and that's due again to the request being infeasible and therefore premature at this time. That would allow them to get to the sewer.
As per, I'm sorry.
Was that you, Rocky?
Go ahead, go ahead.
Say, I was gonna make the motion as per staff recommendation, this property not be annexed at this time.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or any comments? If not, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Rochelle,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
Chairman Williams.
Aye, thank you. PC Resolution 2021-25 is approved of this body. Next, we have Roman number 9, concept plan review. The first item there is consideration of concept plan for the Boat School redevelopment, Reagan Investment, located on Birch and Cedar Street, tax ID 036E H026.00, project development 15-009.
You should see the screen before you. This represents the overall existing layout of the Vos School and the parking to support that facility, which is in the Vos neighborhood bound by Birch Street, Cedar Street, and Locust Street. It's 1.33 acres, a larger property. As you will recall, a number of months ago, the city went through a request for proposal process, and there was a review by a design team and it was presented to the Board of Commissioners. The recommendation and Reagan Design was chosen to develop or put this property and put it into a reuse. And their proposal was for a residential use for the Vos School for 4 separate units, apartment units within the school. And what they have before you at this time is their conceptual proposal is to get your review and approval of this concept as they would proceed on into more detailed site planning for the development plan and also a subdivision plat. The proposal that's before you includes 4 lots, lot 4 being the school, which would include a relocation of the parking lot with that parking being accessed off of Birch Street. That will need to be maintained at 25 feet in width in terms of the drive aisle. And then the parking is supported at 2 spaces per unit for the 4 units that would be in place there. The concept also includes an additional 3 single-family detached housing sites be provided for on this property along Cedar Street, in keeping with the Cedar Street development plan of single-family detached housing. It also includes a common open space, which will be maintained on lot 4, as there will be a need to look at stormwater management and just overall open space requirements, which would also precipitate a need for joint maintenance and restrictive covenants and such for this type of a subdivision. The lots would be maintained at 6,000 square feet each. They have more than 50 feet minimum road frontage. This is a Residence District B zoning classification, which allows medium density like multifamily projects and single family detached housing as well. So the zoning would support this type of a configuration. Staff would recommend the concept plan approval subject to the following, and that's 1, a revised site plan denoting, and those are stipulations A, B, and C. 2, the submittal, review, and approval of a detailed site plan by the Alcoa Municipal Regional Planning Commission, as well as the same for the exterior building elevations, was said to include detailed reviews for engineering, stormwater management, fire, and utilities, etc. 3, submittal, review, and approval of a preliminary final subdivision plat by the Alcoa Municipal Regional Planning Commission was said to be recorded and also include review and approval for owner's recording of covenants, conditions, and restrictions by the city attorney for maintenance of open space, detention, and pedestrian access easements necessitated by the creation of multiple lots. 4, the schedule of a pre-submittal meeting with city staff prior to submitting items 2 and 3. 5, submittal, review, and approval of detailed landscaping and tree replacement plan by the city, by the Alcoa Tree Board. And 6, meeting all other city requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, we've heard the recommendation of staff. What is the desire of the commission?
I move for approval as noted.
We have a motion. We have a motion on the floor. I'll second that motion. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If any questions, if not, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
Chairman Williams,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rochelle.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next category is Roman number 10, which is old business, and we have none. Roman number 11 is new business. We have a consideration of request by Ryan Dobbs, Barbara McMurray Architects for site plan approval for a change of use, East Tennessee Children's Hospital Urgent Care, former Palaos Restaurant located at 352 Fountain View Circle, tax ID 046C A 016.00, project development -20-017.
Okay, so this, again, as you mentioned, is the former Playhouse building, also contained within the Springbrook Corporate Center and adjacent to the Texas Roadhouse and bound by state highway rights of way. The use change here is from restaurant to office. Obviously, the change to this site represents expansions of the building, which you see in the red now. There will also be improvements to the elevations, which really do not really include change in terms of form. In terms of materials, be in keeping with that which exists. So really just give this a fresh look and some minor modifications. You are provided with the recommendation. Again, it's for an urgent care facility for Children's Hospital. Staff does recommend site plan approval, including the exterior building design, which is subject to the following. That's one, a revised site plan denoting as revised, and those are stipulations A, B, and C, with C being the addition of a bike rack location with the bike rack detail to be provided. 2, approval of utilities, if applicable, with all utilities to be underground. Note that all building signage and other site fixtures or accent lighting, including pole lighting applications, shall be designed and installed to protect the light downward. 3, approval of landscaping plan by the Alcoa Tree Board, if applicable. And 4, meeting all their city requirements, which include building plans review, approval, and issuance of the necessary permits, and et cetera.
Move approval as noted.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion or comments? If not, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Rochelle?
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Chairman Williams?
Aye, thank you. Next, we have a consideration request by Kelly Hicks, Johnson's Architectural, for site plan approval for a extended pavilion, Clayton Lodge, located at 150 Clayton Lodge Road, tax ID 027 028.03, project development 20-018.
Okay, this again represents an improvement project on the Clayton Lodge property. And as you recall, there have been a number of improvement plans presented over the years. Specifically, this plan was also presented to you previously. There was the site plan approval and which was approved at the February 20th of 2020 meeting for the new grilling pavilion. This request eliminates the golf cart shed that was reviewed previously and extends the existing pavilion out, which is 37.8 feet in length and 29.9 feet in width, and it expands the slabs for existing trees as well. This represents the area of the property, which includes this grilling pavilion and all improvements that'll be included as part of this project. And site does, there were building elevations provided to you as well. It is a PUD type of development plan. It's all in keeping with that which is planned for and developed currently. Staff does recommend the revised site plan approval as it was considered previously, subject to the following, and that's 1, approval of engineering, 2, approval of stormwater management if applicable, 3, approval of utilities with all utilities to be underground, and 4, meeting all city requirements.
Thank you. Thank you. You heard the recommendation of staff. What is the commission's desire?
Move approval.
Second it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or any comments? If not, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Rochelle?
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Chairman Williams?
Aye. Thank you. The next category we have is item Roman number 12, other business. This is for information on the request by Blount County Library and Logan Hill for the installation of picnic table style Wi-Fi hotspots on public lands at the Martin Luther King Jr. Community Center in Springbrook Park.
Okay, this is just to give you a visual of what the picnic tables look like that'll be installed two each in two separate locations. This represents the first location within the Springbrook Park area, which is around the Springbrook Gym area. There are two playgrounds on this portion of the park, and the picnic tables will be installed there. This second slide is going to show you two additional locations, which will come later. These are on the MLK site. Again, two separate picnic tables on this property around and more adjoining to the actual MLK facility. Staff has been working with Parks and Rec to locate these areas, and Ashley specifically has been working with Joe Huff, and we just wanted to give you this as an information to you. And Ashley, if you have anything you want to add, you can certainly do that too.
Okay. I think that those are very good. That's very good that we'll have Wi-Fi in public areas for users. That's great. That's really good. Do you know if they're planning on other locations throughout the city or the county?
I'm not aware of any. Are you, Ashley? And
I
speaking
am
with Joe.
personally not, but they've also been, I hate to put him on the spot, but Mark, if this is a countywide project or.
My understanding, there's probably some in Maryville. I think they've already put one have they put one at the library yet?
Yes, there's two at the library.
But I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
Okay, all right, that's great. Okay,
I wonder what the range of those Wi-Fi stations would be. You know, a couple of them are close to the building. I wonder if they would be able to get reception inside. In bad weather, they could use that probably, couldn't they?
Well, MLK Center has its own
Yeah.
Wi-Fi hub in the building there, so you can actually sit in the parking lot and pick up the signal, I think,
Okay.
there. So it would be more so in Springbrook.
Yeah.
I don't know what the range would be on them.
that's good. That's a great project. Great
Oh, yeah.
project. I'm glad to see the library and the and Parks and Recs and some of the citizens of the city and the county interested in doing such. It's a great service to have.
Yep.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, is there any other items? If not, the chair will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say
Aye.
aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I want to thank you for your time and for your attention tonight. And I really want to say thank you to the staff. This is quite a bit of work, quite a bit of hard work, and I really appreciate that. I also appreciate others that have joined our meeting tonight. Commissioner Tracy, thank you very much, as well as other guests. And it's always good to have Andrew. So thank you very much. You all have a good night, and I appreciate you, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman.
Thank you,
Good.
sir.
Good
Bye.
night.
Night.
Hey, Clarence, before you go,
Yes,
if
ma'am.
I leave the minutes and the PC resolutions out in the vestibule, would you be able to stop by tomorrow or Monday and on them?
You put it out there, we'll get it done. Okay. I'll try my best to get by tomorrow.
I appreciate that because
Thank you so much.
there's a lot we're trying to push to the city commission on their May 11th agenda. So.
Well, we need to keep the city commission busy, so I'll make a special concerted effort to get by there tomorrow.
You're muted, Tracy. Sorry.
Okay. Thanks, Ashley. Thank you.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.
Have a good evening, guys.
Have a good evening.